Okay, so today I want to just introduce you to having a little bit of fun with your tools. The last couple of classes and that whole broad edge pen seems to be like a very formal writing tool to you, and it is, no doubt. But there are a lot of opportunities to manipulate the broad edge pen and make different kinds of shapes. And lettering does not always have to be well, it sounds really weird, but it does not always have to be only readable. We are so stuck to the idea that all letters must be very clear and legible that we tend to forget that they can also be just beautiful forms, may not be used for reading and communicating as much as used as a tool for illustration. So I'll show you a few things that you can do, also a few scripts that are slightly different, and all of them come from playing with our tool differently. So I have this old wooden spoon. I'll show you how to carve this out. It's not rocket science, actually. Anyone who's carved out a potato, you can do this. So just cut the edge out, make the top a little flat, and you should be able to work with this. Then I have just a random flat brush, and I'm using a round brush. That's it. So we're not using too many specialized tools for this. The same thing that we do with a small tool, you can do with a large tool as well. If you don't have a very wide brush, not that I have a wide brush, I have something that is just about maybe 1.5 centimeter or so. I'll show you how to work with this. But all these are soft brushes. And remember that it's really important that you keep the edge of the brush very clean. So if you have brushes which you've used for acrylic painting, oil painting on canvas, or such media that require you to really dab onto your surface with pressure, there's a good chance that the edge of that brush has become frayed and it's not a very soft edge. Not that that tool cannot be used, but it will give you a slightly frayed edge to your letters, and all of that can be very dramatic as well. So, one rule with lettering is experiment with anything and everything you have. Whatever you have in your hand, just try to take it. Even your hand is a tool, and try to write a letter with that. You can have more fun if you try to write with your hand using maybe the edge of your hand even as a broad edge pen, and keep the angle the same. And you will see exactly the same shapes that we make with a brush. So since we are looking at these historic scripts from the future, where lettering, letters, communication, readability, legibility, all those things have become so much more significant, we forget that all these were tools that were used in a very haphazard manner. The lettering or even writing was not as organized as it is today. So there is a lot of beauty in historic letters because everyone was an amateur at that time. Nobody had rules to follow, so they just went ahead and did whatever they wanted. Sometimes things look good, sometimes things didn't look good, but then also it's just as subjective as art. So to start off with, today we are not going to make any baselines in our lettering. We are going to try and write on plain paper. So if you're working with a grid book or with ruled paper, get rid of that. If you don't have lots of bits of paper, if you have printer paper, then you can just choose that. If not, even old newspaper is fine, because if you're using ink, you will be writing much bigger and the letters on the newspaper will not be visible. But keep wads of paper. A single paper might absorb the ink and leave a stain on your table. So use a thick backing if you're using single paper. I'm using an old notebook from recycled paper, which is all got brown or yellowed paper. And as we proceed, I will keep moving this sheet. Not Not the ideal situation because I have to wait till the ink dries and then I'll fold paper. So if you've got loose sheets, that usually works better. In most calligraphy classes, they work with more loose sheets than with books because other than keeping a record of everything that you're doing, books can be a little cumbersome. All right, so let's get to it. So let's first start out with just our regular brush. If you have ink, use the ink. You can use fountain pen ink. Those of you who are doing the calligraphy class, you can use Sumi ink. And like I said, anything that stains is fine. You can use beetroot water, coffee, anything is fine. You need to make that into a consistency that resembles regular ink. It's very watery. It does not have to be too thick. And test it out with just making a few marks on paper. As long as it stains, we can use it for our practice. So the ink uh, doesn't have too much to contribute to how you write, but the surface of the paper and the tool you use are the bigger factors that can influence your lettering. So first of all, I'd just like you to observe what I'm doing, and then you can practice your own letters. Right. So normally when we write with a pen or pencil, we have a particular hold and then we write a certain way. When we were working with our pen, the broad edge pen, we had a certain way. We tilted our pen and we wrote a certain way. Now, when you're writing with a brush has several possibilities. If you hold it like a regular pen, you can make small strokes and write like this. You can also write much larger because it's a brush and not a pen. And liquid ink will carry much easier than the inks that we use in our regular pens. So this is like a older brother of a pencil because a pencil can endlessly draw. A pen with ink filled in it sometimes will stop. Now you can also do something like this. You can change the thickness of your line by flattening the brush. You can change how you make the stroke. You can decide on making one stroke one way and another stroke another way. And then you can also make them with a texture. So there's lots of ways in which you can express letters using a brush, which often are there are limitations when you're using a pen. So I want you to try making different types of A's and see how many different variations you can come up with. You have the options over here will be just so that you know what else you can do different. Sizes of letters, small letters versus big letters. The proportion looks different and it's valid. Then shape. So whether you want to make it narrow or wide or tall, you can decide that. Then you can decide brush, edge, or how you hold the brush. Ink, do you want it concentrated or dry brush? And think of all the variables that you can think of. Try to even break the rules. For example, try writing your letters from the bottom in both cases and from the wrong direction and see how that happens. And then note down that that is also a significant variable, direction. Then you have pressure, uniform or variable. And among the letters, you can also see how you will write straight lines or curved lines. That would go under shapes as well. So if you have to write a curved A or a small case A, how that works. Was it in this class that someone explained the reason why they called small case or lowercase and uppercase letters? Okay, so I think this was in the Saturday class. In the past, when you had presses and they would have you'd have a person, the typesetter, who would take each and every alphabet and set it on a form to create the letters that they would then use to print newspapers and magazines. That is called a movable type printing press. So in that press, you had to organize a letter so that the typesetter could quickly, with his pincers, collect different letters and or mark them in an order from right to left, because he would have to make mirror opposites of the page that would be printed. And the letters were organized such that all the minuscule letters were at eye level because those were used more. And the ones that were capitals were at a higher level and they were kept in two separate cases. So you had a lowercase and you had an uppercase. That's where the term comes from. And soon going to be lost. I think they'll also lose using the words capitals and minuscules. It's going to become big and small letters, and that's if letters survive. So now let's look at the brush. What are the possibilities with the brush? With every direction that you change, you can make something different with your brush. If you pull the line behind the brush, you get a nice thin line. If you hold the brush perpendicular, you will get a fine edge on one side and a wobbly edge on the other side. Then you can do something called brush manipulation, which is in places where you have curves, you can add pressure and change the shape of the line. Now, you might argue that it's the same shape, but the moment you have a thick and thin, it is definitely a different shape because it can allow a lot of flexibility in your, you will not see it the same way. Like the difference between, say, the letter P, if I were to draw it plain and simple, versus this is an aesthetic difference. I do not doubt that there are certain people in the world to whom this difference means nothing. They would just say a P is a P is a P. I just use letters to communicate. So that's okay. They are somewhere in our world and they must be uh, cared for because it's okay. This is
Tolerated, yes.
yeah, and I do not, I feel that the brains must be different because I know how different my brain is. when people are talking numbers, and you can see that I look no different than like a dragonfly sitting in on a conversation. I understand nothing. So I want you to, I'm assuming that all of you are on this side of aesthetic, so you can tell the difference between a standard P like this and a more quirky P like this. Because in this, there are several explorations that you can enjoy. So, for example, what if you make a P which has a serif and a nice long stem, which you can also manipulate. And then you can have something like this. So how this thickness on the right adds such spunk and flourish to what might have been an ordinary P. A lot of times lettering relies on the lettering artist's personal understanding of or personal relationship with aesthetics. So for some people, it matters a lot. I wonder whether that will also be considered one kind of learning now. Not just aesthetics, but the your sensitivity to letters.
Aditi, which
Yes.
number brush should you take? Flat brush?
I have used a number 4. So this is not a flat brush. This is a
Acha.
round brush. This is a regular round brush.
So you have to use a flat or a round brush?
Round brush. I'm doing all this with just a round
Okay,
brush.
I took a flat brush.
That's okay. We'll do the flat brush stuff later.
Okay, so
And
I have a round brush. I'll get that.
yeah, this is the one that we use normally for our painting.
Okay.
Now with the same writing tool, let's say. What if you try writing a running hand? So write something like running hand. Don't, well, not don't. Try making it about an inch tall. And hold the brush sideways instead of writing like this, because if you're doing a running hand, you will have to go up and down, and making that line, holding the brush perpendicular to your baseline will become very difficult. When you hold it sideways, you can press for every downstroke. And when you go up, you still can quickly take it up. And this way you get a nice thick and thin line on every alternate stroke, very automatically. If you were to write them in your regular running hand, you will have to hold the brush upright. Like I said at the top of the class, don't consider anything wrong if you can't make a shape that you expect. Let go of that expectation. don't stop writing. So observe what you can write and how you can write it. And in the writing, what is happening. Because that you could use that to your advantage. Now, suppose I'm not sure, I'm not very well versed with where I should add pressure. I'm just going to write the word lettering and put pressure anywhere I want. I'm not proficient with calligraphy as well. Oh, and I've also made lots of spelling mistakes. Everything you do can have some application somewhere. Are you comfortable with writing with the brush? Then I'll show you a quick set of brush letters. This part we can write in our book. And you need not use ink also. If you want, you can make this in color. So it looks good in the book. Or if you've got colored inks, you can use that, whatever.
So, Aditi,
Yeah.
there's something while I was just practicing with the brush is I'm seeing that I'm not getting the, the dark black tint to my letters. It's more grayish. I'm using the regular fountain pen ink, that Camlin fountain pen black.
Yeah.
So, but if I take, that means I'll have to dip in the brush at every stroke in the ink to get the dark.
No, so there's two things here. When you're writing with ink, you have to dip in more frequently. The fact that you have to dip in at all is because we're writing with liquid ink. Darkness of ink depends on the ink itself. So fountain pen inks are not dark, and you don't write very large sections with them. They are meant
Okay.
to be very liquid so that they can flow better in your pen. If you want that deep dark ink, you can use Sumi ink. So those are specific drawing and calligraphy inks where we do land up making a lot of strokes, and also we write with a dip pen, which needs to be protected. So the water content in that ink is much lesser than in fountain pen inks. But fountain pen inks are easily available. So when you have to practice with liquid, it's perfectly fine if your letters are not completely dark.
Thank you.
Oops. All right. So let's do a simple lettering style. I'm using a cerulean blue and what looks like a 4-number brush. And this is from some random kit. It's not a specific specialized watercolor brush or anything. These tools, especially brushes which sometimes have frayed edges, are so good in lettering because they can create some shapes that are always unexpected, and you can make unique lettering style with that. So we'll make a simple, smooth capital and small letter exemplar. So basically, I want to make letters of this family, and I'm just going to invent them. I can make my own rules. In this, I want to make very few corners or very few apexes. So you have to just keep in mind that we want to make letters that are slightly roundish. So the letter A will be like this. Oh, I can make it and press one side down. B can be like this, and from the top. So I'm trying to find ways to avoid making corners. In painting this also, I'm not making a very thin line. So I will keep pressing the brush for all strokes, almost uniform. C, of course, doesn't have any corners. Now you'll notice that it's easier to make lines coming downward and to the right and then going up to the right, but coming from the top and then coming all the way around, that becomes difficult. So we will make the letters just like we made the O in the broad edge pen. Here as well, the D can be like this. Now somehow we have to make the D look different from the O, but we'll get to that problem later. This is what happens when you are playing with fonts and creating your own letters. E. A stroke like this is very, very desirable, where you start off thick and come thin. These letters will make your script look very sophisticated. F, G. Now, even with G, we can have a line that goes round like this. And you may or may not want to add a second line. This itself looks quite nice. There's no escaping making inward corners on H, but we can make the lines, the upright strokes slightly curved, so they become softer. J. This is something that you can do anytime. And I would encourage you to make a journal of just these letters. Now for the O, how about let's make a shape like this instead of completing the oval. Remember, legibility is not more important than the beauty of the letters. So suppose you're writing dodo and the person who is reading reads only 4 Ds or 4 Os, then chances are if you give them 5 minutes, they will figure that out, that you're trying to say dodo. Also, you will be writing these in some context, so they could put 2 and 2 together, or else it might just be describing them, and then you can just forget them. We cannot cater our illustration work for dodos. All right, now P is another way also where you can have a little bit of the lines show from the top. So in case of D, it is accidentally showing over here. We could have the main stem stick out from the bottom a little bit also, and that might solve the D problem. Q, very simple. So just by adding pressure, you can make your letters look so much more interesting. Now to match with this lettering style, we can make the minuscules. Decide on a general height for the minuscules that you would like. It does not have to be 1/3 or 1/5 or whatever. It can also be just about half or even less.
Thinner brush is advisable, Aditi?
No, write it with the same
one.
one.
Oh,
Yeah. So you will automatically have to write the letters slightly bigger.
right.
Now, in writing minuscule letters, avoid places where you have to make too many complicated loops. Like if you are in the habit of making an F that goes up and loops and down and loops and so on, avoid that. Even descenders, keep them crisp.
वो slip रखे क्या in case if you need it आगे.
All the others also, H, K, L, D, B, all of them, remove those loops. So do press that brush down when you're coming downwards. Like this stroke. This one. And when you're going sideways to the right. Now, once you have made a script like that, it helps to, of course, test it out. Where can we test it? Now, we've got a lot of art from previous classes, and usually I put some of the other title on these pages. So using these topics, try and see whether you can write the word flowers, insects, artists, anything that you can think of. And we can give them some effect. So let's try writing the word flowers. I'm going back to my rough sheet. And I'm going to show you how to make a few effects with watercolor as well. Now you know how you have written the letters, so just keep them in front of you and copy the order. This,
Aditi,
yes,
which paints are you using now?
same pens.
The ink only, na?
No,
Achha,
no,
watercolors you're using.
watercolor, yeah.
Oh. You can't use ink for this?
You can, of course, use whatever you like.
Okay, okay.
So instantly this looks more quirky than your regular writing. And in this also, if you were to take a contrasting color, like maybe a burnt umber, let's try this. Now here's the fun bit. I want you to just see this bit. Don't do anything. See it. While my paints are wet or slightly damp, I'm using the same brush stroke as I did to make the letters themselves. And I'm going to make a shape only in half of that letter form. And without doing too much, I get a lot of drama in. Then, another thing you can do, taking a gray or a black and the same brush, this time using the tip of the brush. You can follow the line of the letters on any two sides. So left and bottom, or right and top, whichever ones you want. And the moment you see the line turning towards the right or going upwards, you stop writing. And just with that, you have a nice, almost three-dimensional looking lettering style.
Oh.
Okay, do you want to give it a shot? Try it. It's not too difficult. It's not difficult at all. What am I saying?
Hmm.
Oh, 1 second. Let me see. Anju. Wait, I didn't see. Write it much bigger, Anju. Never mind. Now the next one, you can write bigger. So all these letters we will have to write much bigger than we are normally used to. Shall we move to the next script? This time we can use our flat brush. So you can use a flat brush for this script, again going back to ink. This is how I keep my tools here. Now, a flat brush should be easier to use because we are used to writing with a broad edge pen. So let's just write an oval like we did for the foundation script. And you will see how the brush lends itself so beautifully to these old scripts, much, much more than the pen. And you'll be able to make all these strokes so much easier or nicer. Now, when you're writing with a pen or sometimes even with a regular, with a brush, if you are holding your brush in a pincer grip, often you have problems making lines that are longer than an inch on your paper. But if you change your grip and move your thumb up to the second knuckle, you have to just move your fingers and the thumb will just go up instead of trying to do this. It gives you a slightly bigger range. So here's how you will write longer lines and make them straighter. We don't need to write those lines, but it helps to know that with a brush, you can change your grip and make different sorts of lines. Now, in this script or scripts with the flat brush, there are different things you can do. Because a flat brush moves in a different way. So you can make things like these. This is called brush manipulation. And if you become comfortable with this, you can start making the Roman letters. So you twist the brush, make thin lines, fat lines, make serifs. And all kinds of formal letters can be made with a flat brush.
Aditi, instead, I'm finding the flat brush quite difficult to use.
Uh, okay. Tell me why. What do you see are the
I'm
problems?
not getting the strokes as clean as you are and probably thicker. I think the round brush was so much easier to manipulate or rather use.
Yeah, that's possible because they both work very differently. But never mind, don't bother about the sharp edges or anything. Work with what you have. But
But the way you're getting a serifs also, those I'm
no, no,
not
you
getting
won't
them.
get those serifs because I'm not getting them automatically. I was just about to explain to you how the serifs work. If you want to, if you all can just have a look at how I'm using the brush here, this will help you out. Serifs are made by, like I said, manipulating the brush. The brush is held at a different angle when you're making horizontal lines and a different angle when you're making vertical lines. So you have to be very comfortable with that change. When making a certain serif, I will change and twist my brush and pull it in one direction and then release it in a particular manner so that I can make the serif on one side, change the grip, then go straight down, and while changing the angle, make the serif on one side, then go back and make the serif on the other side. Now, I'm not expecting you to do this, but it is important to know this because this is where the script comes from. This is our the original Latin script. So we have done away with the serifs, we've done away with this kind of sophisticated writing because it was very impractical. Sonam, also always sit with your left hand taking your weight because then you can do a lot of stuff with your right hand. Now, while we can't make the serifs like this, you can always make the serifs artificially with the edge of your brush. So make the thick line of the brush and then just draw a horizontal line. You can also make lines which are like this, which would be characteristics of what are called a Lombardic capital style. You don't have to memorize any of this. It's irrelevant right now, but so you know that this was a legitimate historic script. So
Aditi, this is with a flat brush now
now this is with a flat brush, yes.
and with ink.
Yes, with ink. So you use the edge of the brush as if it were the tip of a flat.
4 numbers, okay, no, Aditi?
4, let me see. I think it should be okay because I can't really tell my number here. It looks like a 5 or a 3. So yeah, I think 4 should be fine.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you can also try writing where your brush is deliberately not touching the paper fully. You get these really agey kind of letters. Try rotating the brush in your hand willy-nilly and see what you can come up. It's almost like your hand is like a zombie hand. It does its own thing and you're really trying to write some letters with it. And you get these really creepy letters, especially if the brush is dry or it has these frayed edges. Then if you press a dry brush down, you get some very nice effects. Better than round brush because you have more width. Now these edges were so sought after that they invented a pen that could write with these edges. See how dramatic this looks, so much more than some of our regular letters. This is how lettering artists come up with creative book titles, movie titles. See if you want to write here already you can see if I were to write the word hijack in this script, it looks like there is some kind of suspense or terror involved. I think this, if I write the word lollipop in this also, it'll look like it's a horror movie. So you get a sense of creepiness from this. With this, you might get a sense of order. Here it would be history. Here it would be again zombie apocalypse. So every kind of letter will evoke a certain emotion.
Even the E on top, when you say gothic, you can kind of get creepy. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Right,
So
something.
yeah, that's what I was getting at. So the next one in historic text, I
Aditi,
don't
how
know.
can you get the, like when you pull the brush down, how can you get it pointed? I mean, a thin line in the end, it's not coming.
Right. So for
Like
that,
the
you,
T and the I and L and all.
yeah, so these were made with a manipulated stroke, but these were made by just using the tip of the or the corner of the brush and making a line. Like in the earlier strokes, we insisted on pressing the whole edge of the brush down or the pen down. You can also use just the corner to make a line that is thinner, like a hairline.
Okay.
So I'm going to show you how that works in the Gothic script. So again, if you can just keep your pens down, brushes down for a little bit, I want to explain what Gothic scripts are. So these are black letter scripts, and if you want, you can watch the recording of the Saturday class. I'll share that with you, in which we've done the entire minuscule script. So this script, which is called black letter, is based on letters that are 5 pen widths or 5 or 6 pen widths tall, and they all are based on this kind of oval shape. So whenever, if I want to write, say, black letter, this is how I would go ahead and write it. All the letters are closer than others, and the space between them is just about as much as the letter, the pen size itself. So you see them very close to each other. And this is one of the reasons why it was called black letter, because it consumed so much space on paper that you only saw the black of the letters. The style was invented and used between the 11th and 13th century in Western and Central Europe. So Germany, England, and France used this more than other countries. Of course, the other countries also had different scripts because of the different language and the different sounds that those languages needed. Now, what does this remind you of? This will definitely remind you of something. Sorry?
No.
No? You will have seen movies in which this is used.
Harry Potter? No, right?
Harry Potter also, yeah. No? Okay, I'll give you for 10-15 minutes. Think about it. It'll start becoming more evocative. So to write these letters, you need to hold the nib at between 35 and 45 degrees. Now you're familiar with the scale. So if you were to make a scale for this, it would be 5 or 6 pen widths tall. I'm writing a 5 pen width tall letter. And you keep that nib at the angle. I think now you're comfortable with that idea. And try making this hexagon shaped letter. Now, even without telling you how these letters look, you should try an experiment. How about we make an A like this? Now see, Saroj,
Yeah.
time I have to make a thin line. I can make a thin line in the same angle as the angle that I'm holding the brush in, right? So I just pull it further and the line becomes thin. That is how I get thin lines in this script.
Mhm.
So this is A. This should be easy to make.
Okay. Yeah.
The ascenders looks like this one is looking very odd. I like these clear ascenders. Here also, it's the same thing. Then C. This C would also work, but how about we make one more shape here? So this is an absolutely very basic, oh, what's going to happen with D? How about let's make D like this? Just like C, but pull it up from the top. Can you see how just mere logic will help you to make a lettering style that looks very, very Gothic? The rule is to keep the letter narrow, the space within the letter like a hexagon shape or a parallelogram shape. Bottoms of the letters are spiky and help form a hexagon shape reminiscent of the dark windows of that time. Now the letter F we know has a straight stem. So we bring the stem all the way down. And then we make this shape just like we made the C. And then pull a line across. Does it work? Yes, it works. Wherever it needs to have, it has this nice pointy tip. G can be like A, but how will it go down? Okay, what if it goes down like this? And then maybe comes down like that because we have a parallel shape, and then do this. Does it work? Yes, it works. Are you getting it? Now, do you want to try the next few letters? And I will make them after you. This script was adopted by Hitler's Nazi party in 1933. They said, forget all these modern scripts because they are making people, they're wasting our youth. They're making people very liberal. We need discipline. So let's go for the old-timey conservative script. And they chose this, which was also called a fracture. It was also called a Schwabaker. It was also called a Batard. So depending upon which region you were in, this is one of the most prolific historic families of lettering style that you might come across. I suspect there's multiple reasons for why it was so popular. One being the writing is very, very economical. You can write letters between and underneath these letters in the spaces between them also, and everything works very well. The strokes are so well engineered. I think this is the best, most cleverly engineered lettering style you can find because it works like Lego bricks. You have Lego bricks that are 5 pen widths tall, 1.5 pen width going in one direction. You can only place them one next to the other, and you cannot goof up if you maintain the angle of the letter. To some extent, even the foundation script is like that, but because it has some curves, it does not sit as crisply as the black letter scripts or Gothic scripts do. Okay, I'm moving on to H. Now, letters like I and J, you can forego making that dot on top if you don't like it. J. Then making an extra shape on the J might not be necessary. Why we made it on, or sorry, let me expand that. On the descender of the J may not be necessary. The reason why we made it on the G is because we wanted to differentiate G from Q. But how about if we make it like this? This is G. And this is Q. Now, since we are not dodos and we are not writing for dodos, you will understand from context, one is a G and one is a Q. You will see that this happened very, very frequently in historic scripts. So much so that till 230 BC, we had the same letter C used for the sound of K and G. And the context would determine which letter was being used. Because again, letters were not really sophisticated enough to write essays. They were just meant to put an edict up, write few things that yes, so and so loaned me a few goats, and you would realize that there's no point in loaning you a few goats. So maybe it's goats, and I will give him back goats instead of giving him back goats. Now for K, I can write it like this. I can write one letter like this, and then pull it outward, and oh, this is so beautiful. I love it. In these letters, in the H, K, and F, we don't have the that nice V shape at the bottom. And wait a minute. Yeah. But then we can put this diamond shape here. So instead of ending, no, I like how they're ending without that diamond shape. So even the I want to change now. Typically, there was a shape like this, which was made by just making a small brush stroke towards the bottom right, onto which we would place our stem and then make a foot. This would be the letter I. But in this very, very nice script, I'm tempted to not make the base into a diamond shape. So much more efficient. So there's multiple reasons for this kind of frugality also. All equipment was very expensive. Inks and pens and writing surfaces were not as easy as just go to a stationery store and buy. You had to often make your own. The problem here, but we'll sort it out later. I could also write it like this and leave it at that. Now, S is a beautiful letter, and I'm going to show you how to write that. This is very close to the traditional Gothic. So just observe, it's very important that you do this one thing right. We are going to make the line coming down here, this line first, then go down to slightly lower than half, and then make it a line parallel again. So I want you to see how this becomes the spine of the letter. After you have done this, the rest are fairly easy to do because you will just make corresponding lines and finish off the letter. Works very well. Now, in the event that you goof up those angles, this is what we have to look forward to. If you do this. And I find that this is very well probable that this is where the Nazis got their SS from. So the difference between a leaning back S and an upright S is only getting this stroke right. You keep this upright and everything else will be upright. Now, there's nothing wrong with this S also. It's beautiful. It's very powerful. But you can see how it is not going to fit in with how everyone else is so straight-laced. And then you have this fellow who says, you know what, I'm going to be a hippie. So you can't have these kind of people in the family. Okay, and now for T again, we need a crossbar and we've made one crossbar over here. Just keep the angle the same and make a nice clean crossbar. So if you do this part patiently, you don't really even need to be well versed with lettering. You can literally make your own lettering, except when it comes to things like S, and the next one is X. This is how you will make X. You start off with this shape, make an R on one side. On the other side, you can make a shape like this. So you can make a corresponding exit stroke like that. I'm just working a logic. This is not how it is made, but with just plain logic, you can make a C, and then to that you can add the other side of B, and then you should be able to make an X. Instead can be like the G, but we will bring it down, even further down, and I can't get it into my, so I'm going to shorten it a little bit.
Aditi,
Yes,
those like how you have done KL at the end on top, you have those slant lines are slant.
right.
When you start with KL and then you go down also towards the end also your line is slanting, but I don't know, it's not coming slanting.
I'll show you how. The
Not coming at a slant.
edge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Up and down.
Yeah, so you just maintain the same angle of your pen. I'm keeping the
Trying
pen
to do
at a
that.
45-degree angle, and you just come straight down and then lift it straight up. You should get it. You don't have to do anything for this.
Okay, it's not
But
happening coming.
if yeah, so if it is not happening, there could be one or two reasons for this.
Yeah.
By the time you come down, maybe you're twisting your brush.
Okay.
Sometimes it happens that if you have too much ink or too much paint, by the time you come down again, there's a big blob,
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what is happening. Yeah.
which makes this shape very unpredictable.
Yeah.
So when you dip into your ink, just just scrape the brush against the edge of your
Yeah,
ink,
I'm doing that. Yeah, I'm doing that.
and then it should be fine.
Okay.
So in time, Saroj, you will know how much ink would be enough to make a stroke or two with your brush.
Okay.
Then automatically your strokes will be, or your dipping will be a lot more measured.
Okay.
All right. Now, this is all this staid and boring, very serious lettering. But you can also take this away to another level. And maybe you can use the same letter strokes, but you don't have to maintain that rigidity. So,
Aditi,
yeah, yeah.
there's no capital letters for this?
Oh no, there are, but we won't
There
get to that right now. No, no.
Okay.
They're very complex.
Okay.
So for now, we won't do this.
Okay.
I just wanted you to play around with the Gothic script. So I thought if I show you how the basics work, if you do land up doing the Saturday class, we've again done only the minuscule letters, but you will know how this works, and you won't be intimidated by the letters. Okay. Now, there's all sorts of letters you can make with these flat brushes. Let's try writing the word. Maybe we can try it in color this time. And making them look like 3D letters also works exactly in this, like we did the earlier ones, because we're writing with a brush. So you can write these letters with a flourish. The same kind of strokes that we made, but this time, instead of keeping them very straight jacketed, allow them to be more maverick. The rules remain pretty much the same. I'm not changing the angle, but this time I'm letting the letters go into each other and have fun with the interactions. So do you see how, because of the fact that paint or watercolor works so differently, in some places you have light colors, in some places the color is more concentrated. This makes your letters so vibrant and always unpredictable. Now the same colors like we did for the earlier, you can use, I'm going to do it a little more differently. I'm not even going to bother making them specifically in the same place. Let's see how that works. This burnt umber color, of course I'm making smaller strokes or thinner, just from edging my brush a little more, not keeping it flat. And in some places, maybe I would use only the tip of the brush. But I'm going over all of them, all the strokes. Now the shadow for this I will make with the same gray color. And I'll follow this properly along whatever shape is finally created, and a nice wobbly line to make it look convincingly handmade. So on Sunday, I had gone for this protest. You must have seen on Instagram for the Save Ladakh group. And I told everyone over there, I'm coming over there. Please bring your whoever has not made posters. So nobody took it seriously, but they did get some papers and markers, and poor chaps were trying very hard to make a poster. And I said, I watched them do all of it, and I said, if you don't mind, can I just contribute? I have bigger tools. And then they said, yeah, okay, but it's chal jayega. I said, no, wait, don't, give me 5 minutes. And then I made that poster for them, the Save Ladakh poster. And of course it worked, because firstly it was more visible than a marker. The line from a permanent marker is so thin, you can't see it. But now let's say if we want to use some of these styles to write a slogan, you can write whichever you want. I'll try and write this Save Ladakh again. So the rules remain the same. I'm changing the brush to a bigger width. And we do exactly the same thing. But this time round, maybe we can also change the script and write something else, like, oh, not something else, but with a different style. So notice how I'm holding the brush, though this is totally flat, I'm holding the brush so that my tips remain like how we did in our, in the foundation hand. Now you don't need to memorize the script. It's great if you do, but you can basically just keep your pen at a brush at the same angle.
Which brush is this, Aditi?
This is a flat brush, 18 mm.
AK?
18 mm, 1/8.
Okay.
But you can continue writing it with the
Phone number.
you have, yeah. This happens to me all the time. Then I will make like that. Now, if we were to make it 3D, just from the bottom part, I'm using burnt umber again. It's the same colors, same technique. But I'm not really making it too refined. You cannot make posters too refined. This even looks like a desert scape with a sky on top. And to this now we can add the word save like this. Now, henceforth, whenever you have to do lettering, please change the tool that you use. Do not use regular pens. Do not use a sketch pen or something wimpy like that. Just go at it with a nice big fat pen, nice vibrant colored inks, paint, and see how you can have fun with the letters. So I want to show you a couple of books just to show you how lettering artists work. Now, I absolutely nerd out on books on lettering. I don't recommend that unless you, I mean, please buy books. I love books. But there are some beautiful books that I buy because I know they're not going to be in print too often. This is such a niche subject. So if you are looking for books, look for ones which have a history and look at the kind of styles that they've come up with. Some of these are, most of these are now digitized, but they often are first written by hand and then digitized. This is completely handwritten. So if you are into journaling, you should try and create journal pages like this. Write cute quotes, write maybe a thought that comes to you. Look at this. This is just written very casually with a brush. Here you can see how the word violence resonates with the lettering style. This is also, I love making this. This is also just some simple lettering with a brush. Even this is so nice. Here, they've deliberately made the letters too close to each other, so they look very crowded. And here, this is what I was talking about, the brush being dry. Now, this is our formal script, but you have so much of drama in these also. Yeah. Now, a script like this is written with a very, very thick paint. So you will literally hold your brush this close, take very thick paint, press the brush down, and then pull it very slowly so that much of the ink is consumed at the start of the stroke. And then by the end, there's just enough to make this dry brush effect. This is fabulous. It's written at such a big scale. This is again a Gothic script, and the artist's pen is about maybe, the brush is about 2 inches wide. So many lettering artists keep a journal just for this. And they will practice all sorts of lettering. Here you'll see it's layered. These are 2 separate inks. I don't know if it is visible on camera, but the artist has written with probably a permanent ink at the bottom, and then on top of that with another white colored ink on marble paper. What a lovely effect. See, watercolor. These could also be inks. So here again, no idea what they're trying to write. It could be a different language, but look at the beauty of the strokes.
That's really watery. I mean, I know it should finish by the end of the stroke, but it looks watery, you know?
This could be ink. This could be photo
Acha,
inks or
हाँ.
something.
Do you know, I mean, have you seen him work, Manjari More's husband?
Manjari More's husband. No. I might have. What's his name?
He's a calligrapher. Mahinder, maybe?
Is it? Okay.
He, you know, the one in Devanagari, a
Hmm.
lot. But what
Okay.
you had shown with the thick paint, and the latest one he's done is in a circle, so you read it like that.
Hmm.
Big pieces. He is
Hmm.
really, really good. Very, I mean, I'm
I'm sure
astonished
I
at
must have
his.
come
He's a
across that.
sculptor and a calligrapher.
Okay.
Sculpts
Okay.
beautiful Ganpatis, yeah, very powerful figures. Maybe we talked about it earlier.
If
But
you
his
can find
calligraphy is,
pictures or ask her to
yes.
send pictures,
He's
just
on
put up page,
Facebook,
no?
even on her site.
Okay.
She's put up her the latest of the calligraphy things.
Then please share, na? So I'd
I
love
will.
to see.
I will.
Okay. All right.
So I
So
shared the drawing thing with you so that you can share it with everybody. Somebody says that we don't want to become artists. That was wonderful. Those 14 things which were
yeah, that was
what
very
you need,
nice.
what you will get.
That
Because it
makes,
doesn't share on a group somehow. So
yeah.
I just sent it to you.
Okay, I'll share, I'll put it on the group. So this is like the tip of the iceberg when it comes to lettering. There's all sorts of stuff. The more you do, the more you discover there is still more to do. And also tools are changing now. So the stuff that we could do on paper, now you can do on an iPad. So that's another world altogether with effects and all sorts of layering and things like that. So if you want to get better at lettering, one is to start using it. Only when you start using it in your projects will you start seeing what you could do better in the next project. If you're afraid of putting it in your books as titling, put it in the back of the same page so that at least you have it for record. And it's not on the page on which you have made the illustration, so you don't have to feel as if you're going to spoil the page because maybe you're better at illustration than lettering. If you don't want to do that, keep a separate journal. And like I used to do with words, you can do a whole lot of stuff because we still have a huge repository of things that we can see and practice within words. Just pick up a dictionary, go to an alphabet. I guess every 26 days you'll have to change it and start with one word with one alphabet. Draw that, write that, move to the next. And if you want, you can also write the meaning of the word, everything from the dictionary that you see. That gives that journal some kind of, I guess, some fun later on in life. You could also write what you have written that letter with. Maybe you've written with brush, with ink, or whatever in the description, so that page fills up. So find a way to practice lettering as frequently as you can. And in order to get better at that, every day, if you are writing anything, even if it's grocery lists, make sure that you don't just jot down something. That is an absolute no-no. You must focus and try to write the few words that we write nowadays, write them gracefully every time. The attempt or the intent must be that. Outcome, we don't know. Sometime the outcome will match the intent. All right. So next week we are beginning travel illustration. And if you guys have any special requests for what you want to do in travel illustration, please send me your ideas. We will be covering a whole lot of things depending upon the place or places we choose. I try to do at least 2 different cities up through 2 weeks. So 2 weeks per city, and we move at pretty fast. But at any point, if you feel you're not catching up, just abandon illustration and just watch. And then do it with the recording because you'll then be able to do it. You won't have to look up, you know what to expect. But if we don't do it at pace, then that's the slower pace is what we use in the travel illustration class, which is on Fridays from 2 to 4, where we take up one city or country and do 4 illustrations in a journal of that country or city. The topics that will be covered will be urban sketching. So we'll be drawing buildings or monuments. We will make food. We will, food illustration, not make the food. Then we will do some kind of artifact illustration, stuff that you would probably carry back home from the places that you visit, like souvenirs. If there are things like fabrics, which are important in the place, we would do that. So all sorts of topics are open. We need to pick and choose a minimum of 4, a maximum of as many as we can manage to finish one page of travel illustration. Okay, so if you there is something like that on Instagram. I will be putting that up again this week. So do check it out so you get an idea of what kind of illustrations we are going to do. And then over the weekend, if you can throw some thoughts that I would like to see this in my travel journal, just share it and then we can discuss.
Well, Aditi, the Friday class is a little more slow and
It's about
then
this space, yes.
yeah, okay.
But we do about maybe one illustration per class, yeah. But it's exclusively travel. So every month we just do travel, travel, travel. So far we have done Venice, Barcelona, Morocco, and next month is going to be Jamaica.
So you would suggest this one or the Friday class as a beginner?
Either is fine.
It's fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Don't worry about that.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll see you next week, everyone. Bye.